Nobody needs that.
Back to back Bob weeks. We love it. Screenagers, welcome back to the Canon, your favorite movie podcast. As always, the one and only movie podcast providing you with a watch list of the most essential movies ever made. My name is Raf, and we have another essential movie. Bob is here. He's back for another week with another essential movie. Val is also here.
I'm also
Val's
here.
season 7 debut. Welcome
Woo-hoo.
back.
I'm
How are you guys
pumped.
doing?
Good.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's finally summer in Maine for a couple of days. It'll drop 30 degrees tomorrow, but whatever.
It's the weather is quite erratic, I think, where
Yeah.
all of us are. It
Yeah.
has no idea what it wants to do.
I think it is.
No.
And the eroticism has somewhat ended here. It seems like it's on the 80s and then it'll go back down to the 70s, but I don't think it's going to go below 70 here. So I think it's time for hot summer.
We're getting some snow tomorrow night.
No,
Not where I am, but in the mountains just north of us. So yeah,
Wow.
that is horrible. I'm
It's
so
insane.
sorry.
yeah.
I will say, I feel like erratic weather or just like an erratic nature is kind of in line with the movie that we're going to be talking about today, in the French
Great
Connection.
segue.
It feels like a
Nice.
pretty out there erratic movie in a lot of ways that we will get to. But that's going to be the movie of the day. That's our essential movie that we are officially entering into the canon. We have a lot to talk about with this movie, more than we could ever imagine, and we will get to all of that. But you guys, while I was watching this movie, and over the past couple of days, really, because I've been kind of picking back up my movie watching, just for the listeners and for the audience. When this episode drops tonight will be the first game of the NBA Finals, where my beloved New York Knicks will be playing for their first championship in over 50 years. So I'm taking the time in between when they won the Eastern Conference and when the final starts to watch a lot of movies. So I've been watching a lot of movies recently, including The French Connection. And I didn't so much have this while watching this movie. And not having this experience made me appreciate The French Connection for a number of different reasons. But the experience that I'm talking about is, I think my brain has been broken by Letterboxd. Do you guys feel the same way? When I watch movies, I can't get the thought out of my head of wondering how many stars on that damn app I'm going to give the movie, as opposed to just watching the movie and either enjoying or disliking the movie for whatever reasons I might have for swaying one way or another. I'm always trying to rationalize how I'm responding to the movie with a star rating, which I am growing to hate. I might have to delete the app.
I feel that particularly with movies in theaters, it's like I'll be like 30 minutes into the movie and my brain's like, this is about at a 3-star right now. We'll see if it improves.
Oh man.
And it is kind of a brain rot thing. I find it's easier to disconnect from it if I'm watching movies at home though. So I don't know, because it didn't really pop into my head during this movie and I actually haven't put it on my Letterboxd yet. So who knows?
I'm tempted to like misquote John Carpenter and go, "What the hell is a letterboxed?" But I know what letterbox is, but I hate rating movies. And it's one of the things when we instituted it on the site last year. That's like the worst part of doing any review for me, is sitting there going, well, it's a 4 for me, but it's like a 1 on Rotten Tomatoes. So what do I do with that? I don't know. So I've never actually done anything on Letterboxd just because I hate the concept of rating movies. So
I love talking about movies. I love thinking through movies. I love writing reviews about movies, even silly little reviews on Letterboxd. I like writing those, whether it's something that's like a one-line joke or kind of digging into what I actually feel or trying to sum up what I think that the movie represents. I still like all those aspects. I just hate the part of me that is thinking through how many stars am I going to rate this? And Bob, to your point of, when we implemented the star rating for our reviews on the website, there is our first episode of Wasteland After Dark does kind of get into that, where we talk about how it is that we craft reviews and all that stuff. So a shameless little plug for
Nice.
that vid if folks want to go watch it. But luckily, while I was watching The French Connection, I never had that thought in my mind of how many stars am I going to give this. I was just thinking, holy shit, this movie is good. Which, yeah, I really want to go back to, for me personally, to a place where I watch movies, and I'm just going through, thinking through scene by scene, shot by shot, moment by moment. What are the things that I appreciate here? What are the things that I don't appreciate here? What do I think is working? What do I not think is working? What I think is like the overall thesis of this movie? What is like my thesis of what this movie is doing and how successful it is, as opposed to, I didn't like that scene, it's back down to 2.5 stars. But if we bring it home with the ending, that could bump it up to 3.5. So that's my little personal, not gripe, but just something that I'm struggling with in my own journey of film fandom, which luckily here on the Canon, we don't worry about ratings or any of that stuff, or rankings, anything like that. We just talk through what makes movies essential, which is the spirit of what it is that we want to be doing. So what do you guys say? Should we talk through what makes The French Connection essential?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
There are so many places to start with this one, but I think where we want to start is the fact that this was everyone's first time watching this.
I think so. I have an embarrassing story as to why, because when you sent me the list, my brain sort of auto-corrected the title, and I was like, oh, The French Dispatch. That's not a movie I expected to be in the canon. But, I mean, I've seen it. All right, let's talk about it. And then I reread it, and I was like, oh, The French Connection. I have not seen this movie. Okay, this is a movie I need to go watch. So, embarrassing, my bad. Still glad I got to watch this movie, though. It all worked out.
It's also embarrassing to discover as I started watching it, thinking I've seen this movie. It's been a while. You know, I haven't probably seen it since the 80s maybe. And then watching the first 5-10 minutes and being like, I don't remember this at all. I don't think I've seen this movie. And then about halfway through realizing that I had mistaken it for Bullet, of all things. So yeah, embarrassing. Absolutely.
So Val, you thought that we were watching The French Dispatch,
which is really silly because, like, look, it's a good movie, but it's not really worthy of the canon. So yeah, embarrassing.
Right. Would be a fun chat. I do like that movie a lot, but I don't think that late stage Wes Anderson is something that's going to make it into the canon. And Bob, frankly, I understand your confusion too, because I think Bullet and The French Connection are both listed as movies that feature the best car chases of all time. So
yeah, same driver, right, for both movies. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to circle back to that, because that's very fascinating. Okay, so we all sat down and watched this movie for the first time in 3 different ways. What were your guys' like big takeaways after seeing this? Like general thoughts, general reaction, response to this movie after these first viewings?
Yeah, it's funny. I wasn't sure, because I had expected Bullet, and well, I didn't really expect Bullet. I just had this image of the scenes from the airport, but I thought for some reason it was a spy movie. And when it starts with, it starts with crime stuff, but it has that element of the old world connection going. So I was waiting for that spy element to come in, and just kind of lost the thread of that, and just got lost in the whole, feeling like I was watching almost like a documentary of some crazy crap going down in New York City in the early 1970s. So it really kind of picked me up and took me away into this world very quickly. And like the first thing I remember thinking consciously, other than just like, why is this not going the way I expected, was I know it's awful, but I kind of miss this cinematic version of New York City. This kind of grimy, hidden version of New York City. And he just, Friedkin really just nailed that setting. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We will for sure be talking about that. But before we do, Val, what was your experience watching this for the first time?
Yeah, I knew it was about crime going in, but I think I had to kind of settle into this is not like, I almost wondered at first, I was like, am I taking the wrong takeaway from this? Because these guys seem really bad at their jobs. And then, like, as I got settled in, I was like, oh no, they're supposed to be bad. Like, they are terrible. And like during the entire chase scene, I was like, this guy is so bad at this. Like every aspect of this, at the espionage side, at the action side, he's just bad at every aspect. So then having that and having the movie end the way it did, I was kind of like, I had to sit with it for a little bit because I was like, oh, this is like a very different kind of movie than what I was expecting going in. But the more I've sat with it, the more I really like and appreciate what it did.
Mm-hmm.
And dang, I wish we had movies that took risks the way this movie does.
Ooh, in what ways?
That ending is such a left turn. And I feel like some directors nowadays are too afraid to do that. And I think that it is so incredibly effective when well executed. And it just really hammers home everything the story is trying to do. Like, I think that this movie fundamentally lives or dies on its ending. And I think its ending just kind of is the gut punch that it needs to kind of nail it.
Yeah. That's such a good shout. Bob, what do you think about the ending?
I loved the ending. I loved it immediately. And I loved it more when I read Friedkin's. I saw an interview with Friedkin where he's like, everybody's talking about the ending and the gunshot and the gunshot. What does the gunshot mean? What does that all mean? It doesn't mean a goddamn thing. He leans back and then he goes, unless it does. I'm like, you asshole. That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah, because there is the final gunshot of like, who's he shooting?
Yeah. But it's not the main guy, because then you get all the end cards of what happened to everyone, and he just gets away.
Yeah.
They're basically little to no consequences for everyone involved.
For everyone involved, yeah.
Yeah.
The ending is kind of perfect. It's one of those endings where, for me, I was watching it and that ending came and it's so abrupt and it really just like throws you off and you think you're heading one way and then you end up heading a totally different way. And I was like, I got to run this movie back. Like that was amazing. Yep. That was incredible. I need to sit with that because it was so amazing and I want to understand why it is that I'm heading towards that ending, as opposed to, when you watch it for the first time, that ending kind of just like happens to you. There's no way to be prepared for it as an audience member.
Yeah. I mean, it's so the antithesis of every cop action movie that you've seen up until that point. Everything that's happened can kind of sort of be thought of as pointless.
Yeah.
The intensity, the energy, the obsession, the focus, the action, everything that happens in it, that's so important, especially to Popeye. And it ends up being a waste. Mm-hmm. So much of it. Yeah. And he gets away with, we're like, all these criminals get away with it. Popeye gets away with it too. He gets away with at least 2 murders.
Yeah.
So.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They just get reassigned. But.
Well, I mean, so much of what's done is sort of this juxtaposition between Popeye and the French crime lord with like the French crime lord ultimately looking like kind of a better guy, which is sort of like crazy to wrap your head around. But like Popeye is such a like nasty little freak that you just like are almost not rooting for him for most of the movie, because you're like, what is this guy's deal? Like he literally can't do anything right.
Yeah. Is he the first or one of the first examples of the renegade cop figure or the rogue cop figure, but one who we realize and understand isn't an aspirational figure? Like,
So there's another movie that does this that I think is highly inspired by this, but I'll save it for the recommendations.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Something that came after this.
Yes, came much after it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm wondering, do you guys know of any examples of characters who came out either around the same time or before this that are kind of in a similar light? Like, I feel like now we look at it and we're like, oh yeah, that's like totally the Popeye character is an archetype for rogue cops who are kind of dipshits who weaponize their role and position in ways to then like not even do their jobs that well.
Well, and like everybody else is like presented as hyper capable in those. I think the most direct comparison would be to Bullet.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve McQueen's character, and even right down to the epic car chase sort of thing. But even that, he's a good cop. He's presented as a good cop who wants to follow the rules. And yeah, he's maybe a little maverick, but he's not like he's not incompetent at his job, nor is he a garbage human being. And then not long after this, like the video that you shared with us, Val, that not long after this, you get Dirty Harry, who is a bad cop, but is also hyper good at his job and presented as the apotheosis of what a cop should be, really. This is like one of the few times where the cops are presented in a not, I don't want to say realistic light, but definitely an unflinching look at who they are as people with all their flaws. So, and not a lot of positives.
Yeah.
I mean, Cloudy's only positive is that he's not Popeye.
Yeah.
He's
slightly less terrible. But another movie that I think of is, I mean, this again, it's very recent, is like Jarhead kind of does this with the military.
Yeah.
With this kind of like portraying these guys as just kind of pathetic losers who aren't even very good at their jobs and don't actually even see combat in the course of the movie. Spoiler for Jarhead, I guess. But I still think that this is a relatively rare thing. I think that like culturally we sort of like looking at like our public services, like military, like cops, and sort of idealizing them because that's what we want them to be. And it is like less popular, I think, to kind of look at them in this sort of unflinching and critical way. Like even today, even 50 years later, it's like this is still not a very common trope in cinema, I think.
Yeah.
And
it's funny. It's funny to me. They're flawed. They're terrible at their job. They're terrible human beings, but they're also apparently really good at their job because they, like that scene with Simonson, he's like, you have the best closings of, you bring in more perps than any other cops, but they're all low level guys. And it's kind of meant to sort of, suggest that Popeye's just concentrating on the low level street guys because he's a racist SOB and he's just focusing on the people he can get. But at the same time, if you were in a regular police force now, closing cases is how your job gets handled, how you go up the ranks. So in that sense, they're doing great. So it's weird.
I think a word that you brought up, Bob, that I think is kind of interesting for this character is obsession. Like, it's kind of a movie about obsession, and it may have just been that before this case crossed his desk, he was just obsessed with the low level dudes because that's what he could do. And that kind of filled his time. Like, he seems like someone who's only able to focus on what is like directly in front of him at any given moment as a character. And he just kind of like stumbled into this larger case and then takes it and runs with it because that's like all that he knows how to do. Which is another, I think interesting layer for this particular character that makes him like one of the most fascinating cop characters in media history, in my opinion. So, okay, with everything that we have going on with good old Popeye and all of his character flaws and how the movie is kind of highlighting and exploring maybe a different aspect or element of cop life. Do we want to talk about Gene Hackman and his performance, or do we want to talk more about how it is that the NYPD and New York City in general is kind of portrayed in this movie and how Popeye reflects that? We've got to choose your own adventure kind of situation.
Yeah, I think talking about New York City and the overall setting and feel of this movie is an interesting way to go because it's grimy and kind of it really like there's no question from the first scene that this is shot on location in like every single location. Like they went to Marseille, they went to New York, they go to DC for like 10 seconds. And it's every
Bob,
shot just has that very like lived in feel.
They did not go to Maine. But yeah, it's the look and feel of this movie is amazing. And I feel like one of the things that struck me, and it's probably like reaching for a comparison, but they have quite a few of the shots of when we meet Fernando Rey's character, Charnier, I think it is.
Yes.
In France, a lot of the scenes in Europe are through old parts of the city and ruined fortresses, and it's like the remnants of this old empire. And then you compare this to the shots that they show us of New York. It's not Fifth Avenue and all the landmarks and stuff. It's lived in, full of people or abandoned urban blight areas, and it felt like a legitimate comparison between the remnants of one empire and we're watching people working through the remnants and the ruins of another empire at the same time. So, because it must have felt the 70s were bad in New York City, you know. Mm-hmm. It was a time where there was a lot. I mean, they when they pulled that kid into an empty lot, there's just a fire in the middle of an empty lot for no reason. I'm like, what was even happening here? What is going on in this city?
Just New York, baby.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We were talking about before we started a little bit about upstate New York, Schenectady, and honestly, some of these shots look like Schenectady, and maybe that's just because of how like urban decay, grimy, grungy they picked. It does not look like typical New York at all.
Yeah, not to get like hyper local, but I do think that the way that we see a lot of upstate New York cities now, like Schenectady, Binghamton, Rochester to some extent,
it's Utica,
right? Like all these cities that used to have these like factories where there was like a bustling working class and stuff, and then those factory jobs left, and now those cities have been in a similar kind of urban decay for the last 3 to 4 decades that New York City was in the 70s. So like, I think it's a fair comparison for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like I go up there about once a year to visit family, and like every time it's like more businesses have closed, more people have moved out, and I mean it looks a lot like this movie looks, unfortunately.
Wow. Yeah. You go to Binghamton, New York, and the people of Binghamton are very lovely, but oh my God, I've never been in a more gray city. Just
it's not great.
It seems like the whole city has a gray filter on it.
Wow.
Like the sun has not touched that city in ages. And to bring it back to the French Connection, that the New York City that this movie is shot in feels like the sun hasn't touched it in ages. And like those opening scenes between Marseille and New York, it's so jarring when you cut back and forth because it's
Yeah.
so sunny and beautiful, and you're on the Mediterranean, and it's like bursting with color. And then you go to New York, and you're like, oh my god, this is so gross. Maybe if you're a sicko like me, you're like, oh my god, this is so gross. I miss this New York City.
Yes.
But yeah, the difference between the two is so stark. And Val, you mentioned that they go to DC at one point.
They do.
And even DC is bright and sunny.
So, okay, I need to, one gripe about DC movies in general is that they often mess up the geography like really, really badly in a way that locals notice. And I noticed watching this movie because first I looked it up to see if it was on location because I didn't believe it was because they screwed up the geography so bad. Because they have him get out of the cab and the Washington Monument is behind him. And then 2 seconds later, they're in front of the Capitol building. And if you've been to DC, you know that those landmarks are on opposite sides of the mall.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait a minute. But they did shoot it on location. They just did some camera trickery and cuts to be like, oh, well, they're at the Washington Monument and now they're at the Capitol building. So
they just cut it together poorly.
Yep.
I will, Val, the way that you feel about movies that take place in DC disrespecting geography, sister, that is one of my biggest gripes about movies in New York.
Yeah, and don't even talk to me about Jack Ryan. Jack Ryan is like all over the place. Like this man has like a 50-mile commute to work because they have to show every landmark. It is insane. But yes, I agree.
This movie does a pretty good job at sticking to New York geography. And I mean, it's tough because a lot of the places that are shown in this movie are like not places that you would know, right? Like there are no like major landmarks really, besides I think at 1 or 2 points they're driving across the Brooklyn Bridge that people will know. But like one of the early stakeout scenes where they're first tracking Sal and his girlfriend, they're waiting for him. I'm gonna get hyper local right now.
All right.
We're waiting for him on Delancey Street at the base of the Williamsburg Bridge, and like that's pretty good. And then they drive through like the Lower East Side into Little Italy, which again is like mostly pretty good. Outside of that, and like the Roosevelt Hotel in Midtown, like if you don't live in New York, even if you do live in New York, most of these places you're not really going to recognize. But it feels so real. And I ended up reading a little article that like tracks through all of the places where they shot on location. And with like a few exceptions, it sticks pretty close to the actual geography of the city. It's just a geography that like most people don't know, right? Like
that's so cool.
The opening scene is at like a bar in Bed-Stuy. That you know, if you walk by it now, I think they said it's like a bodega or like a Chinese restaurant. So like you wouldn't know unless you are a French Connection like super fan. But yeah, what else do you guys think about how like gritty and real New York is in this movie? What it means that they were shooting on location. I think there are a few other questions that I want to ask, but we'll start with those.
One of the things that got me was everything's not just dirty, but damp. And I'm like, do you know what this looks like? This looks like January. And you can see sometimes that there are Christmas decorations. So I guess it's supposed to be around December, but they ended up shooting it in January. And it's everything's gray. Everything's, in Maine during January is when everything gets all covered in sand and dirt, and all the snow is gray, and all the buildings are gray, and all the cars are gray. And it was the same in New York, but everything's dry in January in Maine. In New York, it looked damp. Everything looked wet, and that made it colder somehow. So I loved that though. I thought that was fantastic. You could almost feel it.
it feels like the city is almost an additional character in the movie, like really playing up every scene. Like there's certain scenes you can just sort of feel the tension. Like a scene that stuck in my mind is where um Chanier is in the French restaurant and you see Popeye like through the window and he's just like freezing outside in this cold damp and he looks miserable and it keeps juxtaposing them and I was like, this is hilarious.
It's so
But you
good.
really feel it. Like the movie makes you feel kind of the warmth and the color of this like beautiful like beef dish he's eating and escargot and then it like shoves you right back out into the cold with Popeye and it
Eating a
really
slice of
serves
pizza.
eating a slice of pizza like a real New Yorker, folding it in half and just shoving it in his face. But yeah, it really kind of makes you it's an additional element that really sucks you in to the story, I think. Also,
Yeah.
I need to talk about grape drink in that is this was this a thing in the 70s? I was not alive then. Like just a little stand selling grape drink.
Oh, you know what? I don't know. I need to ask my parents if that was a thing because they were alive in New York City in the 70s.
Just a
And
little stand.
yeah, I mean, I know that platform. I've been on it 1,000 times. I've never seen any sort of stand there.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm going to do that a lot during this episode of,
That's awesome though.
It's fine.
That's awesome.
yeah.
Having a local that's
Oh, I've been there. I've been there. I used to live right by the Williamsburg Bridge. So that scene in particular, I was like, that was when I fully locked in. I was like, you had me before. And now, whoof, we're just, as long as the geography of the chase makes sense from the base of the Williamsburg Bridge, then I'm good. And it stayed true to that. So we were A-okay. Bob, what do you think about the city itself being like an extra character in the movie? Like Val said.
Well, you know, and I think I said this maybe before everything started, but I kind of miss that version of New York. Not necessarily the actual version of the city, but the cinematic version of the city where it's kind of more, I mean, everything's more degraded and slightly awful, but there's also this kind of life to it. There's a billion little shops and there are people everywhere and everybody's kind of like living their own life outside of the big spotlight of what we expect from New York City, especially outsiders. And so it feels almost like getting to peer into into someone's life in a way that you don't normally get to do. I think I may have said something about how it's shot like a documentary a little bit, and the way he shoots it makes it feel like you're part of the scene, and like you're a little bit, because you're seeing parts of the city that you have never seen before, and it feels more intimate, like you're more involved and more connected to the city in a way that you wouldn't have been if it was, bright lights, big city every time. So
yeah,
I love that. I felt, I just recently went to New York and we got stuck in a very touristy part of the city, and this made me, and I loved that. And being an introvert, I wasn't expecting to like love the subway, but if it gave me an insight into a kind of not so bright, shiny, touristy part of the city, and made me feel closer to it, even though it's not a real thing, at least not anymore. So,
no, there are versions of
it's
it.
It's a rambly,
but it feels, I mean, like you're saying, it feels like an authentic version of New York, right? Like kind of like I was saying, if you visit New York City, even if you live in New York City and have lived in New York City for a while, these are not really places. These are not landmarks or even neighborhoods that you're really going to hang out in. Like where we'll we'll table the car chase scene for later, but where that takes place is like not somewhere, unless you like live in New York and like live in that neighborhood that like people go to. Like, yeah, there's stuff there, there's people there, but it's not like there's nothing like fun and fancy to see, you know? And that's true of most of where this movie takes place. Even when they're in Midtown Manhattan, they're not by like the Empire State Building. They barely go through Times Square. They go through Little Italy a little bit, which like people might visit, but not the places that they're going to. Like, this is a very boots on the ground kind of New York City that we're getting from this movie. And I get what you mean, Bob. Like, in a lot of ways, I too kind of miss this version of New York. And it's funny, you know, this is like the version of New York City that I think most people get on like their local news, where they're like, New York is scary and dangerous. It's like,
Right. Yeah.
not really. Like, I live kind of close to Bed-Stuy, and like there are like 8, you know, like bougie coffee shops around the corner from my apartment. You know, there's not Popeye and Cloudy type characters who are busting into my local haunt and giving everyone the shakedown. Like, it's just a bunch of people hanging out.
Good.
Yeah, it's super chill. And the subway is awesome. Everyone should ride the subway. I'm glad that you like the subway, Bob. That's not really related to the movie.
Crazy. No.
I think there's something kind of beautiful about what the French Connection does, though, because I think in some ways, like, people who really know a city want to see that in cinema. They want to see an intimate kind of boots on the ground look at where they live. And I think that is so rare nowadays. I mean, if a movie is set in a city, to see something like this portrayed in this way.
I do wonder if that is more so true for people watching this now in a post, you know, effort to clean up New York City kind of world, as opposed to, I wonder if the people of New York in 1971 were going to the theaters and watching this and they were like, hell yeah, that's rad, that's my New York City, baby. Or if they were like, that's my New York City, and it kind of sucks because there's drugs and violence everywhere.
Yeah,
and bad cops.
Yeah.
But
good point.
I don't know. But I think that also goes to Bob's point, which I think is a good transition for us, about this movie kind of feeling like super real and almost documentary style. Is there anything like with the camera movement and technique in this, Bob, specifically that you were thinking of with that kind of documentary style, or just like a general overall feel for what's going on, or combo of both of those things, something else completely?
Well, yeah, I mean, for a lot of the film, it's handheld cameras. It's just, you know, 1 or 2 guys with a camera just running after, in a lot of instances, literally running after the main characters. And I remember reading somewhere that he would like rehearse with the camera people separately from the actors, and then have them like try and combine and figure out what each other were doing, which was kind of a crazy way to do it. But it was almost like people with the cameras showing up and like starting to capture what was going on at that moment. And that's balanced with a bunch of scenes. Like, I thought that was going to be the whole movie for a while. It was like, oh, it's just going to be this kind of shaky cam the entire time. But there are also quite a few scenes where he just sets the camera and lets it roll. A lot of those that are like dialogue scenes or whatever. So it kind of shows you the difference. So you don't just get used to that feeling all the time. And because you go from those kind of crazy shots of just the camera trying to get to where it needs to be to keep the action in. And then you've got shots like when they lift the car, when they put the car on the lift and it rises up and it reveals Popeye just sitting there completely.
Yeah.
Like, that's a gorgeous shot. That's almost like yeah, I'm doing this for a reason, but I can freaking do filmmaking too, man.
Yeah.
So, but that makes all of the cinema verite sort of stuff even more impactful when it does come.
Val, what do you have for us on that?
I'm not like as informed when it comes to like camera shots and things like this. I did notice like the shaky cam of it all, just feeling very anxious and tense. Like the car scene, the car chase scene, frankly, stressed me out a lot.
Yes,
Watching it.
it should.
Yeah, it really, the way it is shot kind of throws you in. You feel intimately close to everything, and many times that's very uncomfortable. Like I think of the scene where Cloudy's coming into his apartment and there's that like naked woman in there, and you're just like, I want to be watching anything but this. I mean, that's how I felt watching that scene. I was just like, he just looks so gross and sweaty, and you're just like, oh, I don't want to see this.
Yeah.
But it really is a very authentically feeling and authentically shot in the way that, because it was just these two cameras, it feels like you're just kind of walking around with these guys.
Well, it's, now that sort of camera work is like everywhere. They do whole television shows like this. There's the found footage stuff is all like this, but that stuff's all like self-aware. Like it knows what it is. Everybody knows where they need to be. And it's kind of, I don't know, not cutesy, but there's a stagedness to their unstagedness now. And there's none of that in this movie. Nobody appears to like even have any idea what to do with the camera, where it is. The cameras sometimes don't even seem to know what they're focusing on. And it's just so raw. And I know that he came to it by watching a film that I've never even seen.
Mm-hmm. Z?
Z, yeah, exactly. Where he was like, "Oh, you can make a narrative film shot like a documentary. That's how I'm going to do it." And then didn't figure out how to do it. He just went and did it.
Amazing.
Like let's slap a camera on the front bumper of the car. It'll be low so we can see all of this stuff, but it also means everything's coming at us as fast as possible, and it's stressful. Or put a guy in the back seat of the car with a camera, not knowing where the car's going to go, and that poor guy is just back there going, I hope I live, as they go through that chase scene. So
it's
crazy.
They shoot the chase scene and a lot of other scenes in this movie without proper permits, and they were kind of just going for it?
Oh yeah,
that feels right.
that whole chase scene is they paid the cops that were their handlers. They bribed them not to press any charges, and then they just, and the guy who played Molderig, the Fed that gets into arguments with Popeye, so that's Bill Hickman, and he was a driver on Bullet. So he was a stunt driver on Bullet. He plays one of the bad guys in Bullet, but he also did the driving for that chase scene. And it was, they got in the car and Friedkin goes, I need you to go as hard as you can go. And Hickman is like, you think you can handle as hard as I can go? He goes, we're only going to get one shot, so you got to go. And while they were going, the guy sitting in the back seat was saying, Friedkin was just going, faster, get in there, go harder. And Hickman's going 96 miles an hour in some of those scenes. And that's so they didn't tell anybody.
Under the D train.
Yeah.
There's a real
so, and some of those crashes just happened. Like some guy came out of his driveway, took a turn, and bam, hit by these guys, and just kept going.
And and maybe some of it is just like city driving experience, but you just sort of picture the idea of like being on the road going this fast and like this tiny city road under the train, and you're just like, oh, absolutely not. So
Oh.
anxious. Like I was like absolutely clenched that entire scene. Just and when he crashes, you don't feel better. You don't feel catharsis.
No.
The scene doesn't stop. It just keeps going.
I was just gonna say the chase scene is such an interesting like little microcosm of the entire movie because he's just blindly chasing this guy with like no plan whatsoever, no right, like no real sense of like what it is that he's trying to do. He's just like, I gotta chase, I gotta go. This is my focus right now, so now I go and I chase this guy, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna do it poorly. I'm just gonna steal some poor guy's car. The line where the guy's like, "How do I get my car back?" is amazing because like, of course, Popeye didn't think that through. He's like, "I just need a car so I can chase this French dude, this French sniper, and I'll figure everything else out after, or maybe I won't. Who fucking cares?" But that's like the whole movie. The whole movie is him just like he hyper focuses in on something, and he's like, "I must chase it," without any sort of real direction about what he wants to do with it or why it is that he's chasing it. He's
Well,
just like, this is a thing to do.
well, the Frenchman is kind of equally directionless, but it's more just due to like circumstance of he is on this finite space and there is only so many places he can go, and he is just absolutely running out of space. So like it's equally stressful watching like the passengers and the poor train conductor who just wants to live. And it's nobody's gonna end up okay, and you just
Yeah.
like your whole body is just racked with anxiety watching this entire scene. It doesn't really let up whether you're watching the car or the train.
Do you guys
Yep.
agree that this is one of, if not the best car chase sequence in movie history after seeing it?
It's up there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Have either of you seen Bullet?
I haven't.
I have not.
It also has a fantastic car chase scene, but it's as good as it is, and it's amazing. It's still two cars chasing each other through the city. And this was a car chasing a train. You know, they specifically were like, we can't do Bullet. We have to do something different. Have him chase a train, and how genius it ended up being. Because it doesn't sound on paper like it would be that exciting, but you know where the train's going to go.
Yeah.
Just
This is
figure out how to get there. It's trains don't go as fast as cars or whatever, but it just turned into this incredible scene.
it's got to be top 3, if not top 1 train scenes of all time. Do I debut my
What are your
favorite?
others? I mean,
Yeah, what are the other
what
train
are you
scenes?
comparing this to?
Okay, well, I think my number 1 is the train fight in Spider-Man 2.
I was wondering if that was one of the ones
Best
you were
use
going to
of
go
trains in any movie.
to.
This could be number 2, honestly, very easily. Number 3, a more recent example, but I do think that it's up there, is the subway sequence in Spike Lee's Highest to Lowest from last year,
I
which
still
if you guys haven't
seen
seen the
I have
movie,
that.
not seen that. Yeah.
Meaning to
everyone
watch
points
it.
to that scene as like the one highlight. It's remarkable.
Cool.
There's got to be something in the Warriors. There's a lot of them riding trains, so there's going to be something good there. And when I say trains, I'm just talking like New York City subways. I'm not
Yeah.
talking,
Yeah.
you know, Mission Impossible fighting on top of trains or anything like that. And then if I had to pick a number 5, I haven't seen the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Right.
I'm sure that's going
pretty
to be up
stressful.
there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a work in progress. But
We put you on the spot. So.
I put myself on the spot.
That's
I didn't have to do that. I think another interesting thing between Bullet and this is like, doesn't Bullet take place in San Francisco?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could have a car chase through New York City, but why not incorporate something that is uniquely New York into your car chase scene and have it happen on the D train.
Yeah.
In basically Coney Island.
You know, we talk about, and Val specifically is talking about how, I think, well, actually it might have been you, Raph. I'm lost here, but how Popeye is so focused, hyper focused, but well, I'm just chasing this. This is what I'm doing right now. This is how I do it. Whatever. You kind of can compare him to the director in that sense, as far as even with that, just saying, I know what I want. I don't know how to do it except for putting everything in place and then pushing people to do that. And he does it even as much like the scene before this, which is Popeye's been removed from the case and he's just kind of dejectedly going home. And then this sniper starts shooting at him. So Friedkin set that all up and then shot it with just Popeye, one more actor, the camera people, and didn't tell anybody else that's in that scene. So when the gunshot happens and the woman falls and Popeye freaks out, all those people freaking out in the background, they're just people that were there.
Insane.
Yeah. I mean, that's a crazy person thing to do. You know, that's insane.
Absolutely
Lawsuits
insane.
would happen if that was done today.
Yeah.
Okay. There are a few other things that I wanted to jump off on, but because we're here, and Bob, you've mentioned it a few times, but we got to talk about the psychopath that is William Friedkin, because a lot of the stuff, his approaches to filmmaking are like not things that would fly now. I feel like he's not always mentioned in the same breath as like the other sort of new Hollywood directors who were working at the same time, but I feel like his influence is as big as anyone else's. Like
The
especially
Exorcist.
when you look at this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you guys think about? And Bob, if you have any other stories about his directing style and how it kind of came to fruition here.
Did we already talk about? Yeah. No, I mean, this. I don't know if this is not his first movie, right? I mean, he did like The Boys in the Band, and I know he did a couple other things before that, but this was like a big thing. But he was still like a young, untested director when they did this, and this movie was only shot for like $1.8 million or something like that, which even today is only like $14.5 million.
Yeah, small budget.
It was super small budget, and I think he felt like he could get away with stuff because it wasn't important. It wasn't a big film, but because he got away with it, he kept getting away with like, oh, now I've got an Oscar for doing this stuff that I do, which includes things like making, like the two things that I can think of are he made Gene Hackman stand outside in the cold in that scene where he's standing across from the restaurant.
Oh my goodness.
And to get a single shot of him like doing his hands are cold. And he made him shoot it again and again, like 100 times. And finally Hackman got so
miserable.
Yeah, he's miserable that whole time. And Hackman eventually is like, get over here, show me exactly what you want. Just do it exactly the way you want me to do it. And so he came over and did it. And he said, fine, now you've got it. And he left. He's like, it could be anybody's hands. It doesn't fucking matter that it's me standing there. So now you got it exactly the way you want it. And that was their relationship too. And then the other one is he's not getting the scene of, I can't even remember which scene it is. It may be towards the end, but Roy Scheider is supposed to be scared of the gunshots, and he's not getting the face that he wants. So he starts the camera and fires a gun like a foot away from Roy Scheider's head. So in that scene, Roy Scheider is afraid of being shot by his director. That's why he's so scared in that scene. And that's, you know, he got what he wanted in a way that's kind of like abusive.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think
Everybody
there's
loves Billy, but everybody's scared of Billy.
I think there are stories from like other later movies that he worked on where he was teetering into more abusive behavior. It's hard, here. I feel like you can, I feel like you can tussle with Gene Hackman and it's okay. That's just two grumpy
Right.
dudes going head to head. It feels like it works.
Yeah.
Val, do you have anything on
I,
Friedkin being kind of, we'll say, unconventional in his directing style?
yeah, I don't know much about Friedkin other than he did The Exorcist, and obviously that is one of the most celebrated films of all time.
Yeah.
That one's filmed in DC, but
That's true.
maybe he just liked DC so much he had to come back. But yeah, I was not familiar with his erraticism. Sounds very along the same lines of like, the Kubricks, Hitchcocks. We're all doing this stuff that would just not fly at all today. So I mean, like we appreciate their art, but man, these poor actors what they had to go through.
Yeah. And these poor extras who didn't know that they
Yeah,
were
the
Oh
going to
my
be
camera
God.
extras.
crew and the
Yeah.
lights and the boom mics. Like, jeez.
Like, oh man, okay, there are random gunshots happening left and right. There's a freaking car driving under the Q train going 100 miles per hour, and I'm just like going to get lunch with my friends or whatever. And I got to deal with this. Like, these are very unconventional ways to make movies, and look, it kind of works.
Yeah.
This is in many ways a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to know like where the ends justify the means.
Yeah.
Which, Bob, like you were saying, to bring it back to the French Connection and the Popeye character, like kind of the same. Like, right, like it doesn't work out for Popeye in the end,
Right.
based on the ending that we see, but the approach is pretty similar. Uh, I want to circle back to the end of the car chase scene before we move on. Just curious to hear what you guys think about how it ends, and what it means for the character, for the movie, for the story, and all that.
Yeah. It's the scene that them, Popeye's already gone over the edge,
Mm-hmm.
really, but his frustration and anger and those great shots of Hackman driving that don't do anything to drop the tension in the chase. He's just so angry and frustrated, and it perfectly works with what's going on with the car and stuff. Something bad's going to happen when he finds him, but there was one of the cops that was working with them saw the scene being shot, and he's like, stop, 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 you can't do this, you can't do this scene this way. And Friedkin's like, what are you talking about? He goes, there's an unarmed man running away from you, you can't shoot him in the back, that's murder. And Friedkin's like, well, I tell you what, we'll see what the audience thinks. And so they shot it that way. And then when they showed the movie in the theater, the first showing of the theater, when that scene happens, the audience got on their feet and cheered. And Friedkin walked up to the cop and said, seems like they thought it was okay.
Whoa.
And I'm like, but that's the moment. That's really the moment that Popeye becomes the villain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Up until then, he's a bad guy. He's never a good guy. But that's the point at which he's no longer even a cop anymore. He's just the dog that is catching its victim. It's just going to do, he's just going to do whatever it takes to run down his target. So,
Yeah, I don't know if I could top those thoughts, but I think the interesting thing about the last 15 minutes of this movie for me is that you sort of think like it is actually going to work out for him after all of his stupid everything. This is actually going to work out for him. And I was almost sort of stunned a little bit when they just give the car back and it's like all fine. And I was like, what? And then they open the car and the drugs are all still in there. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. What's happening? But then they have the whole like blockade chase scene and all of that. But then we have those final moments and it just sort of sinks in of like, oh, it's not going to work out. Like so the movie sort of builds you up just to like dash any expectations you may have had for how it's going to go. And it really is like an incredible ending in just like, it's almost like they're trying to get the audience not to empathize with Popeye, but to feel his disappointment because it was all lined up to go this way and it's not going that way at all.
Yeah. I mean, it uses the sort of like conventional, okay, this guy's we can either say protagonist or main character, and he's the person who we're following, which like inherently as movie fans, we're going to identify with and therefore empathize with them a little bit. I think that this movie is like really, really, really clear in that we're not supposed to sympathize with this guy or identify with this guy. So it's interesting, Bob, that like, you know, in those initial screenings, people were cheering when he shoots the guy in his back and commits murder. But then I think the end, like, because it doesn't all work out for him, it really hammers home like, oh, it was never going to work out for this guy because he's a total dipshit. Whether that is like any sort of indictment on the NYPD or policing at large, or just like this particular guy, like, take with that what you will. I think it's more about just like this dude is a total dipshit.
Yeah, and they give him like action movie beats that he just totally screws up. You know, and that whole scene when the bad guys are coming over the bridge, and I honestly don't think the movie's clear enough about the fact that they're all on an island and this is the only way to get on or off the island. Because I was like, what the hell are the cops doing there? Why have they not pulled up while the action's going down?
Yeah,
but he gets that scene where he gets to do the mirror image of the of when the train chase happens with the Frenchman, where he's like, you know, that's an action movie character beat, and then he totally wastes it. You know,
yeah, that
people
part's
get
awesome,
away.
right? Like,
yeah,
it seems like, okay, we're reaching our climax. Our main character is about to win. He's catching the bad guy. He does the cool, cheeky callback thing. There's only one way off the island. We got him. And then you don't got him.
You don't got him.
All of this, like, depiction of Popeye as a confused character, we'll say, at the least. Or we can go all the way to bad guy. We have another choose your adventure question for you guys.
All right.
So we could either go with something that we alluded to earlier, which is a video essay about some censorship in this movie that informs or takes away from how it is that we understand the Popeye character. And we can talk about that for a little bit, or we can talk about this character and this story and this movie being based on a book that is about a true story, which I found kind of interesting in how this movie is both real, but I think also reveals some truths, which I don't think that a lot of movies that are about real events are interested in doing. So I think we're going to get to both of these topics.
Yeah, I'm very interested
Why not
in
both
both of these topics.
Yep.
Do you want to get started, Bob?
No, you go for it because you're the one that found out.
Oh, yeah, I did find this video to shout out the creator of this video because it would be not nice to just not mention them. This was the video. It is titled "On the French Connection's Censorship." It is by the YouTube creator Eyebrow Cinema. I thought it was excellent, which is why I sent it to Bob and Raph as well. But it mentioned that the version of this movie, it was the version I watched, and the version on many streaming services has some edits. In particular, basically the uses of the N word are cut out of this movie. And that's not unheard of for streaming movies generally. But the argument that this video essayist makes is that essentially this sort of softens Popeye's unlikability by removing this, because, and I could see arguments either way, frankly, because it's still pretty obvious that Popeye is racist towards Black people. I think there is like enough content in the movie to still convey that message. But yeah, we don't see him like use that very, very ugly slur. But we see him use lots of other slurs that are still in the movie. So, like, I could see an argument for removing it, but I could also see an argument for just leaving it in. So, I don't know if you guys had any kind of opinions about the censorship on the streaming version of French Connection.
Well, I told you I had the version that I had seen, which was DVR'd from FX Movies. Does have the original edit, doesn't have that. And so I didn't see the edit until you sent me the video. And the thing that gets me is that it's just such a hack of an edit.
Yeah, it's not even a very good edit.
You know, it's like a jump cut. And it, you know, you could have even just, you know, taken the word out or whatever, kept the scene, because there are still other interactions between those two characters that are important to those characters within that bit that's cut out. But it's just like baby bathwater, you know, we don't want that word in our movie. We'll have all this other horrible stuff in the movie. I mean, the scene where he goes to, and I can't even tell if it's like a diner or whatever it is. And he hassles every Black person in there. Goes talks to his, that's just one big racist scene, the entire freaking thing.
I think even the scene with his, the end of that scene is worse than him uttering the N-word, where he turns to that lady and he's like, your hair better be fixed the next time I'm here. Like, what? Like, that's insane. Yeah.
Even the cop that he has the relationship with, his like undercover cop, he says, which side do you want me to hit you on? And he points to his side. He hits him on the other one just to be like, just so he can like feel powerful. It's like really, it is really trying to paint us really early that Popeye is a bad guy. So I guess I'm kind of like, there is enough of Popeye is still a racist bad dude in the edited version. But like, did it need to be edited this way? Yeah, I agree with Bob. It definitely could have been done not by cutting out an entire scene, which misplaces some context.
And I mean, Hackman wanted all of that stuff taken out too. He wanted to more humanize Popeye, and Friedman's like, no, this guy is a racist asshole. You're playing a racist asshole. Just get used to it, you know?
The scene in question that's cut, is it just, it's like 2 lines of dialogue, right?
It's or like at the beginning of the movie.
Right? So, okay, I watched this movie on an illegal streaming website. Shout out to all the folks doing God's work out there with illegal streaming and whatnot, down with the with our streaming overlords for all of these reasons. But yeah, while I was watching it, I like full disclosure for anyone who just listens to the show and doesn't know, I'm a Black American person, and I was not offended at all by hearing the Popeye character say that word. I was just like, okay, that's who this guy is. He's a racist cop. That tells me a lot about the character and informs a lot of what he does for the rest of the movie. And even further to that, you know, beyond him just being like a racist son of a bitch, the line that follows is like also pretty important, where, you know, first, what's the other character's name? Cloudy,
yeah.
He's like, oh man, like I can't believe I didn't know that the guy had a knife. And Gene Hackman's like, never trust a And then Cloudy's like, he could have been anything. And Gene Hackman is like, never trust anybody. And it's like, oh, okay. So not only is he racist, but he's also just like the most paranoid guy ever. And that informs a lot of the decisions that he ends up making throughout the movie. And like to cut something so early that tells us so much about a character is, I think, kind of detrimental to the movie at large. And like
Yeah.
not having that word, like, I don't think will like make me again, or like any other Black person watching this movie, think any differently about like the people who made it or anything like that. Like, I know that the characters and the words that they speak don't always reflect the filmmakers themselves. It's how it's used within the context of the film that can be detrimental or harmful or, you know, informative. Like, there are plenty of movies that I've seen that don't use that word that I walk away from and I'm like, that's the most racist thing I've ever seen. Like, the movie itself is racist. I don't think that this movie itself is racist. I think that it's about a racist character, which is an interesting thing to make a movie about.
Yeah, it is a matter of like the context, like you're saying, of is this person saying this and it's just kind of in there to be inflammatory or shocking. And I don't think it is. Like, I mean, because there was when I was watching this movie and the first time he started using the slur for Hispanic people, I sort of like was I was caught off guard to be like, did he really just say that? But so when I say to shock, I don't mean like, I think that was the appropriate reaction. That was what he was looking for from the audience, to be like, oh, wow, this guy is a real piece of shit. So I think that's different than just having your characters willy-nilly, regardless of what character they are, what their motivations are, what the story is, just throwing around slurs or like hot trigger topics, like just for, publicity or whatever. And that's not what this film is doing at all.
No, it's and like, if you're only going to cut that out, then it really just like, it causes more questions than it does solve anything. Which, that I think if anyone's interested, like, go watch the video. It's exceptional. I think the whole question of like, Bobby brought this up, like, it does speak to the importance of physical media. It's unclear if this was a decision that Friedkin made in a transfer or updated like restoration of the movie, or if it was something that Disney made when they acquired the rights to this movie and put it on streaming services. But like, yikes, that's something that happens all the time. Like, whether it be like for racist content or for sexual content or for violent content, or just because like George Lucas is crazy and wants to add like a bunch of like CGI bullshit to Star Wars. Like, the streaming versions of movies that we watch can be altered in ways that like can fundamentally change our understanding of movies. Luckily, in this case, I don't think that it does like alter our understanding of the movie, but that's like a scary thought. If a movie is meant to be read one way and then a streaming corporation decides like, no, we actually want it to be read this other way. Like, what if Dune on HBO Max has a bunch of shit cut out and then we're all supposed to see Paul Atreides as like a good guy? You know, like these things,
enough
that's a horror
story. So,
these artistic choices like fully matter. But I thought that was super interesting. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, Val. So the other thing that we had in our choose your own adventure was the fact that this is based on a book that's based on a real story, which I feel like the movie doesn't really highlight. But I'm curious to know what you guys think about like how this movie handles the balance between reality and truth, and if you think that question makes any sense.
It's funny because the two cops that are the subject of the book are in the movie. So they in particular the actor, the cop, say his name, Egan. I got to look it up real quick. Eddie Egan is the so he plays their supervisor, the one that they have to go to get the wiretap and the the permission to actually expand the case. So he's the one, and they were there the entire time. He was there and approved the scene where Popeye shoots the guy in the back as a thing that might happen, and how well it portrays them, or how realistic it portrays them, to me boils down to one sentence or two sentences that the guy has when he's trying to make one of the feds, the one played by Bill Hickman, Milderig, back off Doyle a little, because Mulderig's like, your hunch has got a guy killed, and he's riding him about that, and so Egan's character says something along the lines of, he's a good cop, and then he pauses, basically a good cop, and he's talking about himself.
Yeah.
That's the best that he can say about himself, is that he's, basically a good cop.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, that to me was like, that's an insight into that particular character and how and that person and how he feels about himself and his portrayal in the movie. He's pretty happy about his portrayal.
Yeah. I haven't read this book. I was not familiar, but I think one thing that I can't help but think of, and I'm not going to get too into like politics here, but I think it's just common knowledge that the New York City Police Department has sort of a kind of gray history. And I mean, we think about like stop and frisk, and we think about Rikers Island, and like all of these, like, I'm not making any kind of statement about the New York Police Department as a whole, but I mean, we can look at things like that have happened and be like, those things were bad. Those things were just like completely terrible. And they existed. And I think that perhaps this movie sort of hints at that very real history within the New York City Police Department of like the normalization of violence.
It's an interesting way to examine it, right? Like an interesting movie that is examining these things, these uncomfortable truths, but in I think like a very artistically thoughtful and genuine kind of way, right? Like I think Dirty Harry's also in the canon, so there will be an episode about that. But I think it is interesting that there are three like pretty big cop movies that came out in 1971. It was French Connection, Dirty Harry, and Shaft. And like Shaft is like about a cool cop being cool, doing Shaft things. Kind of fantastical in how it's presented. Dirty Harry is like this like gritty, sort of real look at a rogue renegade cop who's like doing a lot of the things that the Popeye character does, but in a way that like mythologizes that character in a lot of interesting ways. And then this movie is like, okay, this is first and foremost an examination like of this particular character and his particular story and what it means in like this New York City and all of those things, but also kind of a real gritty look at what happens in some police precincts. And I think this movie does a really interesting thing where like I was thinking about earlier today about the explosion of biopics and how much I hate them and like everything that they stand for, because they are meant to give us this recreation of reality that is not interested in exploring any truths about either its subject or the themes that it wants to explore or art in any real way. And I think that this movie, because it's like it's based on a true story, it's based on a book that's based on a true story, but like even something as simple as changing the names and having some sort of artistic integrity and intention about what it's going to be about, it loses that desire to just like copy and paste reality and tell us truths about our reality in the art that it presents, which I really, really, really appreciate. And I think that there are a lot of other movies that do that. Like, even if they don't change the names, like like Fargo. They changed the names, but that's a movie that is revealing truths and not necessarily recreating reality. Goodfellas is revealing truths, not exploring realities. Bohemian Rhapsody is neither truthful nor grounded in reality for as much as it is trying to recreate the reality. The Bruce Springsteen documentary, not interested in any truths. A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan one, not interested in any truths. And I just think that we should get back to filmmaking that is trying to explore truth and not necessarily recreate reality, because you don't get anything interesting with that. If Eddie Egan was on set and he was like, that's not how it actually happened, this is actually what I did, this is how it was copping around, that's not an interesting movie. There's nothing fun there. We don't learn about this Popeye character and his psyche and have the ending that we have that like left the three of us absolutely stunned. So that's my my little soapbox for this episode.
No, I agree.
Well said.
Though I will say Marge Gunderson is a good cop. I think we can all agree.
A really good cop,
Yes.
a really interesting character.
Absolutely.
Yeah. God forbid filmmakers take a true story, a real story, and use that as a jumping off point to tell a really, really fascinating story on screen.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
God forbid. Okay.
Complete aside, just because you brought it up, the guy who wrote the screenplay, Ernest Heidemann, he's the guy who created Shaft.
Oh, nice.
So he wrote the original novels that
I have a very fun story to tell you about Shaft, but I'll tell it off.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make the obvious joke.
Yeah. We're just talking about Shaft. Sorry.
There are a few other things that we have to get to before we get to recommendations. Going back to Bob's point about this movie kind of being documentary style, I think it works because so much of this movie is about observation, right? Like it makes sense that the cinematic style is observing, when most of what they're doing is just observing what the French guys and Sal are doing. Like there's so many scenes of just them like either chasing them in cars or like standing around the street trying to get a sense of what's happening, which is awesome. I feel like that's a lost genre of film.
Oh, and I mean, I wrote it down a couple of times because it struck me so much. Whenever they're watching these guys, we never hear what they're saying. It's always from their perspective. We do end up getting scenes of the bad guys together, but it's got nothing to do with the main characters when that happens. So I love that every time that they and we are just trying to figure out, what are they talking about? What are they saying? What's happening? I thought that was genius. I enjoyed that.
So something I'm curious if it happened with you guys' versions of the movie you watched. The first scene where they're in Marseille and it's just the two French guys talking, there were no subtitles.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is really interesting.
Subtitles.
And my partner speaks French, so I almost grabbed him, but I was like, no, I have a feeling it's supposed to be this way.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think there were any in my version either.
I don't know that they were saying anything all that interesting.
I think it was more you were just supposed to infer by body language and their acting, which is
we are French and really we are doing joke crime.
We're doing crime.
Something like that. I thought there was going to be more time spent in France, and that
Me too. Considering the movie was called The French Connection, I thought they would like go to France or something.
I thought the reveal of their being.
You wait for the sequel for that.
Yeah.
I thought at some point Popeye would be like, "Wait a minute, these are French drugs. This is French heroin that they're doing." But no, it's like very early on. They come to New York, and it's just all in New York.
We haven't talked about yet, and I just want to talk about the train platform scene where they're stepping onto the train and stepping off of the train. And the whole scene, I just kept thinking, like, Popeye is so bad at this. Like, he really thinks the guy can't see him. And, like, that is so unbelievable at this point.
Yeah. Oh my God. And it's obvious that he's been made since the hotel,
Yeah,
but he doesn't know that.
because he's so
Oh my
dumb,
God.
just like
Yeah.
profoundly dumb.
He's like, dude, I'm crushing it. I was thinking during that scene, like, if anyone were following me like this on the subway, I would know immediately
Yeah,
Yeah.
within moments. And obviously, like, if you're that character, you can't call the cops because the guy chasing you is the cops. But
And then his cover on the phone is to pretend to be like a freelance bartender.
yeah.
Like, what the hell is that? What?
You're just
Like
like
the worst thing ever.
you're just kind of cringing at that point because you're like, come on, man. Like he knows you're following it. Just stop.
yeah, it all goes to the point of like, this is not a character who we're supposed to be cheering for or sympathizing with, right? Like, he's racist, he's paranoid, he's a shithead. He like lets random ladies die outside of his apartment building, and also he sucks at his job.
Just terrible.
He's
Yep.
he's like all of the things that that people who hate cops, like, he's all of those things that they say. Like, he's dumb, he's racist, and he's just
they let us know right off the bat when he's pretending to be Santa Claus, and then he goes. I mean,
Yes.
he's so terrible at at that, and the running around. He just looks like a clown.
Do you pick your feet in Poughkeepsie?
I looked this up because I was like, is this a racist something? I've never heard of this before, but it's literally just nonsense that he says.
Yeah. It's just a way to get the guy off, the guy that they're questioning, to get him off his feed so that he answers Cloudy's questions, just to have a normal.
They didn't mispronounce Poughkeepsie, which most people do. So
a very authentic New York movie.
That's really authentic New York.
Yeah, knowing how to pronounce Poughkeepsie. Yeah. Okay, so I think we've hit pretty much everything. We haven't really talked about Gene Hackman, which is kind of wild that we've gone this long without talking about how great he is in this movie.
I think one thing I love about his performance is that this so easily could have been like the too goofy. Like it would have been almost like comic relief. And he plays this role in a way that's like, it's sad and pathetic to watch him, but it's not funny. Like you don't really laugh at him. And I think that that's sort of a hard tightrope to walk, of making this really pathetic character, but not so pathetic that the audience laughs at him.
Yeah. I agree. And I almost feel like that one scene that they have of him in his apartment was almost like a mistake, because when they have a scene where he wakes up in a bar, and I thought, that's where he lives, really. He doesn't really have an apartment. I don't want to see where Popeye lives. I don't want the idea that he has a life outside of his obsession.
Is so dumpy.
Oh,
it is.
Is it a studio?
Reminds me. I mean, I visited like friends in New York City that were like college students in New York City, and that's what their apartments looked like Popeye's apartment.
He also, so he has that apartment in 1971 New York, and I'm sure your friends who you visited, Val, they were living in by Union Square, like NYU in the West Village or something. He is living in damn near Coney Island, right? So like he's not even in a part of the city that is like accessible.
Yeah.
Right? Like he lives in the boonies, which is what I was saying earlier when, talking about like, you want to see where the car chase scene happens in The French Connection. Good luck, because like the only thing out there is the people who live out there. And like, again, no disrespect to them. I'm sure it's like a lovely neighborhood to live in and grow up in, but you don't come to New York City and like go hang out there. Unless you're going to Coney Island. But even then you go past, he doesn't even live all the way out in Coney Island. Like he doesn't live in the part where people visit. He lives just before Coney Island, which is just a place where people live.
Yeah. Not even a real neighborhood.
Yeah. Wow. It's not like an accessible neighborhood or anything like that. Like it's like barely near something that you would go see.
Yeah.
which makes
Yep.
his apartment situation like, you know, that much sadder.
Oh,
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, Gene Hackman is amazing in this.
And then he almost didn't get cast. I mean,
Oh,
Friedkin didn't
really?
want. Yeah, Friedkin did not want him at all. Most of the people in the film didn't want him because the most recent film he had done before that was something like How Green Is My Valley or something like that, and he had a deep Southern drawl in that movie, and they were like, he's going to be a New York cop. I don't think he can pull it off. And then Gene Hackman didn't want to do it. He's like, this character is reprehensible, and I don't really want to portray this kind of character, and fought against some of the language and about how Friedkin directs, and somehow nobody wanting him to be there, including himself, turned it into solid gold, literally in the case of him winning an Oscar for this role, and then he goes on to do so many things, but in the next couple of movies, and I can't think of any of them right now, unfortunately, but he's
a few years after this.
Conversation, which I love that movie. That's a fantastic movie, but it's another movie about a character
Are you
who
sure you
becomes
love that movie, or are you
obsessed.
thinking of something else?
No, it's that movie I love. That movie I know. It may even be in my top 100 list. I don't know.
That movie that you're thinking of is actually Bullet.
No, it is not, because nobody in Bullet tears up their hotel in their apartment looking for a bug at the end of the movie. But that's a movie about obsession of an obsessed guy who basically loses it as well. Like, he got typecast for a couple of movies there where he had to play broken people who got worse over the course of the movie.
But then he was in Young Frankenstein.
Well, and Peter Boyle was one of the people that they were trying to get to play Popeye.
Oh my goodness.
Which is insane.
That is insane.
Yeah. Steve McQueen, that makes sense, but they couldn't afford him.
It's obviously now hard to picture anyone but Gene Hackman in this role.
Yeah.
But it totally works. And I mean, yeah, it's the perfect movie for this kind of turn of the decade shifting of sensibilities where everyone's thinking about, urban decay in cinema, and it's a few years before stuff like Taxi Driver. Like, it really kind of is the perfect movie for this point in time, both like in film history and American history. I think so. For Gene Hackman, I had to look it up because I was like, Gene Hackman had that thing where I'm sure when he was 25, he looked 45. And I was like, he must be like 20 or 30 in this movie. He was actually 41. But it's insane that he had, 4 decades of work after this? Like 3 to 4 decades of like really good, solid work after this.
So many movies.
But yeah, I guess he was more so just one of those guys who got his break a little bit later. I think he was like a stage actor for a while, and it took him a little bit to break out into Hollywood. But once he got there, he absolutely crushed it. Yeah, I love this performance.
It's just because when I was a kid, the only thing I knew Gene Hackman from was Superman. So the idea that he was this Oscar-winning actor was kind of a shock to me when I found out. As I got into my teens, I was like, wait a minute. Lex Luthor is an Oscar-winning actor? Okay. All right.
Yeah, so was Superman's dad.
Yeah. Yep. Fair point.
Which is probly a worse.
Night Moves. God damn it. Sorry. Night Moves is the movie I was
it came to you.
We got it.
It came. Bullet. Damn it.
Came around. Oh my God. I think we've somehow covered everything that I wanted to talk about for this movie. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to bring up for good old Bullet? For the French Bullet?
I like that the only
Bullet
piece of
dispatch.
actual detective work that's done is Cloudy figuring out that the car weighs more than it should.
Yeah.
It's like literally the only real
Only thing.
like detecting that happens in the whole movie. I thought Friedkin loves technical shots. He loves like really detailed close-up shots of people doing technical things. Like the guy that tests the cocaine goes through that whole process, which is not cocaine, heroin. That's real heroin, by the way, that they got from the New York City Police Department to do it the way it's supposed to be done.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Hell
But it reminded me of the medical scenes in The Exorcist.
Yeah.
You know, where he goes and focuses on each individual piece of equipment and how horrible that scene is. But yeah, that's all I got.
Val, anything else?
Dang, I don't have anything else. I had no idea they used real heroin in the movie. I feel like that would not happen today, but who knows?
No.
I can't imagine they would, insurance wise, you know.
One of
yeah, somebody accidentally ingests it, you got a lawsuit.
This
This
might be
whole
one of the worst
movie, everyone
takes.
should have been sued.
Yeah, everyone involved in this should have been sued.
Yeah.
I'm glad they weren't, because then we got the French Connection.
Yeah.
I was gonna say on the topic of heroin.
Oh my God.
A few episodes ago, I had what was maybe my worst take that I've ever had on this show. But we were talking about Training Day, and my buddy David was giving some recommendations, and he recommended Abel Ferrara's Bad Lieutenant, and talking about how he was like super high while he was making that movie. And I was like, you know what? We don't have enough heroin directors. We have a lot of good heroin musicians, right? We've got Nirvana, we've got the Red Hot Chili Peppers, you got Sublime, you got even back to like the Rolling Stones and all that. But we don't have a lot of filmmakers who were just like completely ripped on heroin while making movies. And my take was we needed more of that. And I think I might want to walk that back.
Yeah. Have you seen Maximum Overdrive?
No.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's, I don't know if he was on heroin. He was definitely on cocaine.
I think it was cocaine. Yeah.
But
the second half of my take was we have a lot of great cocaine movies, great cocaine directors, and great cocaine writers.
Yeah.
Just no good.
Right.
No
and some
heroin writers.
Good drunk directors too. And some bad drunk directors. I mean, the guy who directed the guy who directed the French Connection 2.
Oh, is it Frankenheimer?
Frankenheimer, yeah. John Frankenheimer like directs some really good movies, but he also directed Prophecy, which I love me a giant mutant bear monster movie, but it's not his best film, and he was drunk off his ass the entire movie. So,
yikes!
I mean, PTA was pretty coked out when he made Magnolia and Boogie Nights. But he was also, I think he's sober now, and he made One Battle After Another. So perhaps the drugs don't affect him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, recommendations. What do we say? Yeah, we're going to recommend a couple things for the French Connection. We've each got 3, including one movie and 2 other things. Might be more movies, might be some other stuff. But yeah, whenever we're ready, let's go Bob, Val, and then Raph. So Bob, hit us with your first recommendation.
All right. So the first 2 are kind of like, it was sort of a stream of consciousness thing. And then the last one's just completely out of left field because I ran out of things that I could think of to tie in. So the first one that I want to recommend is a movie, came out in 1976. I thought about it because the minute that I saw Tony Lo Bianco's character, um, uh, Sal Boca, the local that sets up the stuff, I was like, man, I've seen him in a movie. I know I've seen him in a movie a couple of times. What the hell was that movie? And finally it came to me. It was Larry Cohen had written and directed a movie about a New York City cop who starts investigating a series of murders that don't seem to be connected in any way, except that whenever he catches the bad guy, they all say, God told me to. And that's the name of the movie, God Told Me To. And he's fantastic in it. He's the primary character. It's known probably for having Andy Kaufman's first. It was Andy Kaufman's first movie. He plays a cop in one of the scenes. One of the things that made me think about it as well, once I thought about him being in it, there's also a scene with a sniper in it, and Larry Cohen did the exact same thing where he had a couple of people who were sniper victims in the shot, and then everybody else in the scene has no idea what's going on. So they have shots being fired, people slapping blood packets and falling over, and then everybody else in that scene is like, what's happening? What's going on? So fantastic. And he was king of running into and shooting things that he didn't have permits for, including well before The Fugitive, going and shooting in the New York City St. Patrick's Day parade without a permit.
Nice.
So in that movie, it's a fantastic movie. It's really low budget, and with everything that Larry Cohen does, some things are beautiful and some things are just good enough to get by. There's a wonderful scene of a guy on top of a water tower, and he ends up falling off it, and I have no idea how they did that shot. It's a fantastic shot of the city with him just tumbling off it. And then they have a shot of a woman like floating in space, and the background is a static still from the show Space 1999, and it's really freaking obvious that they just took a photograph and put it there. Anyway, so that was my first recommendation.
Nice.
Cool.
I'm sorry.
Great. Well, this is probably going to be the most like one-to-one recommendation I ever make on this show, because I think that this movie is pretty much, it is heavily inspired by the French Connection. It's the main difference is that it does not take place in the United States. It takes place in South Korea, and it is a murderer and not a drug trafficker. And the movie is Memories of Murder,
yes,
by Bong Joon-ho, which is, again, it's a movie about a very corrupt, terrible police department. Every cop in this movie is terrible in a different way. You even have the kind of honest cop with nothing to lose, and even by the closing credits, he becomes one of the bad cops. And it is another movie with a kind of very uncomfortable final scene, I think, and one that Bong Joon-ho has explained in detail, which you can look up the interviews because I don't want to spoil the ending for anyone who hasn't seen it, but it's a great movie. It is. Yeah. It is. I think it's an easier watch than The French Connection in the sense that it's not as uncomfortable. Like, these cops are a lot easier to laugh at in their antics. Yeah. But yeah, it's phenomenal. Bong Joon-ho doesn't miss. It's a great movie. I think this one is on. I think it's on Hulu. So.
And Tubi, actually.
And Tubi, cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, it was. I almost put it on my list too. So that's fantastic.
Very cool. Get the same thought.
Great movie. Quick funny little story. I was trying to watch that movie, and for some reason I stumbled across, I can't be the only person that this has happened to. I stumbled across a movie, it must have been on like some streaming platform, called Memoir of a Murderer, and I thought I was watching Memories of Murder.
No. different movie.
And it's just a totally different Korean movie. And like 10 minutes in, I was like, I don't think this is the right movie. It's not that good, but like I think I bought it on Amazon.
Oh no. Oh no.
I was like, fuck it,
man.
I'll stick it out. And then, years later came to memories of murder. And I was like, yeah, this is 1,000 times better.
Much better. Yeah.
I'm also gonna do a pretty direct recommendation for my first one, but there's another William Friedkin movie about detectives in a major New York City metropolitan area that is also dirty and grimy and kind of sleazy. But in this city, things also have to be a little sexy in some ways and kind of sleek. I'm talking about To Live and Die in LA.
Yeah. I like everybody's just nodding.
Yep.
Yeah. Not quite as great as The French Connection, but
no,
still good.
It was a good movie.
Yeah, good.
It's been a long time since I've seen that too. I should dig that out again.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe being full freaky Willem Dafoe, which is always great.
Yep.
Sweet.
That's a good movie.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, my second movie followed on from the first one, so it's even further away, because it made the whole thing of, oh, there are a bunch of these murderers. They're only connected by a phrase. Made me think of another film from 1997 about it's a Japanese film about a detective who's investigating a series of murders by just random normal people who seem to, for whatever reason, just randomly kill people. And then he discovers that there's somebody who may be connected to all of them, and he becomes obsessed, and that obsession leads him down dark paths. So it is, I guess, more related. I'm talking about Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cure. Kurosawa is one of my favorite Japanese horror movie directors. He directed one of my favorite Japanese horror films, Pulse or Kairo, and this is one of his most subtle and affecting films, and it has one of those endings where you're like, I don't know what just happened. What just happened? I need to watch this whole film again, and I still don't know what happened. But it's fantastic. It's highly recommended.
Great shout.
Cool.
Recently or not so recently added to the Criterion collection, maybe about a year ago.
Oh, actually, that reminds me.
Nice.
That's the Criterion collection one. So, thank you for reminding me. I didn't have all props this time. But...
We love Bob's props.
Mine is also quite disconnected, mostly cheating because this movie, another technically crime movie that I watched this week and I thought was excellent. If I had to tie it in, I would say this is a movie where the people who you'd think would be the stereotypically good are not so stereotypically good, and the people you'd think would be stereotypically bad, the people doing the crime, are not so stereotypically bad, but things are a little muddy. But I think one of the greatest directors currently working today, Boots Riley's newest film, I love Boots.
Nice.
Is an excellent watch. Go support Boots Riley so he can make more movies. He's only made 2, and they're both bangers. It's still, go see it. If it's still in theaters when this episode drops, go see it.
It will be. Yeah. Absolutely. That's I second that recommendation. Very fun movie. Probably a lot more fun than The French Connection.
Yeah.
So if you want,
definitely a different vibe, but
yeah. But I like The Connection for sure. The French Connection. Oh man, maybe I might go all movies.
Yeah,
go for
this
it.
round. Okay, so we've got one. My first recommendation is for the director, and then I'm just gonna recommend a Gene Hackman movie. I was never really a big Gene Hackman guy until he passed away, and I was like, let me dive in to the Gene Hackman filmography, and while I was diving into the Gene Hackman filmography, I was also getting really interested in the Tony Scott filmography, and they had a few collabs. I think I don't know if this is my favorite of their 2 collabs or 3 collabs maybe, but there is a scene where they go to DC and it's super bright, and Val highlighted for us how it doesn't fully follow proper DC geography, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts about whether or not this movie does. But I'm going to recommend Enemy of the State.
I've never seen Enemy of the State, but
You
I'll
need
have to
to
go
watch it
watch it and let you
tell us.
know. Because a lot of films that are like set in DC are not filmed there because it just costs an inordinate amount of money to close streets around
Right.
government buildings that
Mhm.
have to function. So yeah, I'll have to watch it and see.
Good Gene Hackman,
Yeah.
really strong Will Smith, and just
Yeah.
you know
Very
Tony
cool.
Scott, maybe the better Scott brother.
The more fun Scott brother, for sure.
Yeah, doesn't have as many lows, but also didn't make as many movies as his brother.
Yeah.
Ridley has just made.
I didn't know if you were going to
many
go with
movies.
this or Crimson Tide, because I was like,
Oh, I love Crimson Tide, but Enemy of the State felt like it had a few more connection points
yeah.
to French Connection. Sweet. Round 3.
All right. My last one is completely off in the middle of nowhere, and I only chose it because the main character is an investigator who allows his obsession to eventually put him in a position where all of the horrible choices that he's made through the first 3 books of this series all come calling in the third one. Everything that happens is due to his poor judgment and obsession with this particular criminal. But this takes place 45,000 years in the future. It's in a setting based on a tabletop role-playing game called Warhammer 40K. It's a series of books by a writer named Dan Abnett that follows what's called an inquisitor in this futuristic world where everybody is ruled by a sort of religious order. And so those people who are in the hierarchy are the only ones that have any authority. And he's an investigator of heresies and that sort of thing. It's really a character study. It's one of the better written, it's one of the best written licensed property things I've ever seen. But the series of books end up being collected into an enormous hardcover called Eisenhorn. And they recently just released each individual book, which was Xenos, Malleus, and Heretic, in these illustrated and annotated
Nice.
editions, which are fantastic. If you like sci-fi neo-noir, these are definitely a go-to. I think you would enjoy it. But if you don't like sci-fi, stay away because it's so freaking sci-fi.
No hate from Warhammer 40K here.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting lore. But
that's a sweet recommend.
Yeah, I might check that out, honestly.
Yeah.
That sounds really
it's
interesting.
Good stuff.
I kind of changed.
Do you happen to have all of these, like, are you thinking through what you're going to recommend and then you're like, oh, I have that? Or are you looking through your collection of DVDs and books and you're like, ooh, I can recommend this for this movie?
No. I would say 99% of the time I'm like trying to think of something relevant and then one thing that's weird. And then afterwards I'm like, do I have that? And then I go looking. So not so much forethought.
No, it's fine. No, that's great that you have props, honestly. Okay, so I was going to do something completely different. You know that I'm a gamer and I love to do video games, but I thought of something better while we were talking, just in terms of a story where the main character is the villain. And it is kind of, there are these turns where you're like, okay, there's no coming back from this. I think it is actually probably one of the best stories ever to do this. It's not Dune, Though Dune is another story that does that. I am actually thinking of the manga and anime series Attack on Titan,
Oh,
which, if you are
oh
into
man.
manga or anime, it is probably one of the best ever written. There are mixed feelings about the ending, but I also think if you are mad about the ending because you wanted Aaron to be a good guy, then you need to grow up. To quote Raph in our other episode. um, uh, but yeah, it's a really, really great story. The anime just wrapped up like a couple of years ago now. It's very good. It's very violent though, so be
Yeah,
forewarned if you're not into that.
Nice. I've
good
not
stuff.
watched or read. I'm not a big manga guy.
Well, if you're into anime and you want to check out a really good anime, Attack on Titan.
I feel like I could be, you know?
Could be.
Yeah, but it's
He's
just
got a
it's not.
Kira on the back wall there.
I do. It's
I'll give you like a 6-episode miniseries to start out with. How about that?
I think I would really like anime. I just feel I don't want to. I feel like I have too many interests, you know, and I
Yeah.
feel like I have to
Yeah, I
prioritize
feel
all of
you.
my interests. Where like my music friends are like, you don't like music as much as you used to, and I'm like, well, I have to watch all these movies, and like people who like TV are like, well, why don't you like any of these TV shows? I'm like, well, I have to, do my I gotta watch the Knicks, and then it's like, okay, well then I between I work and then I watch movies and I watch sports and then I don't have any time for anime or anything else.
Yeah, I will say I watch like one anime a year, maybe. Like I don't have the time, but like right now I'm watching like Jujutsu Kaisen. So
Yeah.
like my interests are not that niche. They're like the mainstream what every anime fan has watched.
But I
Usually
also
like a year after it's come out.
I watch Below Deck, so like maybe instead of watching Bravo shows, I watch more anime or something.
Yeah, there's
Or,
no
like, play
hate for
video games.
Bravo, and actually, honestly, I have like a plan in my mind to write like a article in defense of like reality TV one day.
Cannot wait
Honestly,
for that. Sweet. Okay, so for my third, I was thinking about doing some music. I was thinking about doing a music video. I think it's pretty obvious which music video it would be. But I'm gonna go with another. What are your guys' guesses?
Sabotage. I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be Sabotage. But instead I'm gonna go with another movie. One of my favorite movies, a movie that I also really appreciate because it is very keen on capturing New York City geography and also a authentic vibe of New York City, and a New York City that is not one that people typically experience. And it's a very small section of New York City. But if you've ever been there, this movie captures the vibe of that version of New York City in such an amazing way that's like hard to explain to anyone who has not fully experienced it. But for my last recommendation, I'm recommending, and I'm a sicko because I love to rewatch this movie. I'm recommending Uncut Gems. I love that movie so much.
I have heard that watching that movie is very stressful.
It is.
I still haven't seen it,
but I
have to
love
watch it.
I have a Blu-ray version of it right here, but I didn't take it out to show as part of the recommendations. But Val, Bob, thank you guys. This has been an absolute blast.
Yeah, this has been really fun.
Yeah. I think I told you guys before we started recording, but I didn't say it during the episode. I think this has been my favorite first watch of a movie that I've done for a Canon episode. So there we go. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's so much fun to be on the Canon, to be your first watch though. Like I think it's such a fun thing to watch a movie for the first time and have so much to talk about and be able to talk about it with other people. Like it's just really fun.
It's the best. Yeah.
Unless you stupidly thought it was another movie.
Yep.
It's always hard with the first watch because I'm like, what if I don't like it? And I don't feel like there's that much to talk about. To get through a whole episode. But luckily that was not the case here. And we do get through those episodes because those movies are essential, and we should celebrate them as such. Next week we'll be talking another essential movie. Cannot wait. There will be another fabulous guest or guests who will be joining us. Maybe more Bob, maybe more Val, maybe someone else. Who's to say? Bob, Val, before we get out of here, anything on the website that folks should be on the lookout for? Or
My TV and movies to stream for June will be dropping. I haven't written it yet, but it'll be there. And
nice.
my review for I Love Boosters should be up pretty soon. So
Awesome.
check that out. Go see that movie.
Sweet.
Yeah. By the time this drops, a review for The Backrooms should be up, and I might finally get Exit 8 up as well, just because they're two of a kind sort of films, or at least I assume so, not having seen The Backrooms yet. But yeah, absolutely that. And then of course we all have our 100 greatest film lists coming up next month.
Yeah. So that should be coming out in the days after this episode is released.
Yeah.
So either up now or coming up in the next couple days or so, which is very exciting. I can't wait to see everyone's list. I'm sure, like me, you guys spent way too much time tweaking it, and then you submitted it to Kane, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I left off this movie and included that movie. But, I guess we got to live with it.
I was both stressed and happy to discover that the lists are actually graphics, because I knew if they just put a text list, that I would be endlessly going back in and editing it after it was published. So I was happy, but also like sad.
So, Ralph, I know you're going to be disappointed in me that I have a Christopher Nolan movie in my top 3.
Your top 3? Oh my God. I don't think I have a single Christopher Nolan movie in my entire 100.
I think I have I have that one for sure. But I don't know if I have any others. I'll have to remember.
That's a good preview of something that's coming in the next couple of weeks. To celebrate the release of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, there will be a Wasteland After Dark talking through the entire filmography of one Christopher Nolan. And
we're going to be taking shots of whiskey
you will get some
for every Christopher Nolan movie we hate.
If that's the case, I will be on the floor. But yeah, that's coming soon. Obviously, reviews are coming fast and furious. We've got stuff from both Val and Bob and all the other lovely Screen Age Wasteland contributors. Top 100 movies from all the Saw contributors, which will also be super fun. Val's movies and TV shows to stream is coming. June is a big month for us. We got a lot of stuff happening in June. Going on. It's gonna be great. It's a great time to be a screenager, great time to be in the Wasteland. Obviously, we have the Canon coming. Pole Position is heating up again. Wasteland After Dark. Dahlgren's got his Kung Fu Cinema reviews and really everything else in between. So join us there, screenagers, wherever it is that you find us, this show or the website otherwise. And we'll see you back here next week for another essential movie. And in the meantime, we will see all of you lovely folks in the Wasteland.
Bye.
Bye.